What is going on, beautiful people? Today I want to share with you how you can turn $50,000 into $800,000 by passively investing into apartment complexes. Let's get into it. So how is that possible? How do I turn 50K into 800K in 20 years? How is that possible? I mean, 20 years isn't a short amount of time. It's also not a super long amount of time, and those are really good returns. So essentially, to turn 50 into 800 in 20 years is doubling your money every 5 years, okay? Every 5 years, your money doubles, your investment doubles. So let's make an example of it. So each one of my fingers represents 5 years, and it also represents a new property. So first property we invest into, you're starting with $50,000. $50,000 of your hard-earned income that you've saved up and you're ready to deploy, you're ready to invest in real estate and change your family's wealth dynamic forever, okay? So the first deal we invest into, we invest $50K. Over the 5 years from that investment of $50,000, we made $25,000 in cash flows. At the end of the 5 years, we make another $25,000 of profits from the sale. So thus you invested $50K and you got $100,000 back in your piggy bank. That's pretty sweet, right? That was fun. Let's do it again. So we do it again. We take that 100, we invest that, make 50,000 from the cash flow, 50,000 from the sale profits, bring that back. That's 200, okay? 200 to 400, 400 to 800, okay? So it's really pretty simple when you use your fingers and you talk about it like that, but what kind of metrics are actually am I gonna be able to understand to make these kind of returns? So the two metrics that we look at, the two metrics that we emphasize the most when we buy properties, along with analyzing the market and where the asset sits, is your cash on cash return and your internal rate of return, okay? So your cash on cash return is essentially how much money you're making as a percentage based on your investment. So in this example, you buy an apartment complex where you put $1 million down. Okay, you put $1 million down, you get a loan for $4 million, and you make $100,000 in cash flow. Okay, so at the end of the year, all your cash flow, all your rent checks equal $100,000. So you put $1 million down. That's a 10% return on your money. You just make 10%, which is fantastic. That's a really good return. So that's your first metric. The second metric is your internal rate of return, which is your IRR. Your IRR is classified as this. It's a metric that shows investors the average annual return they have either realized or can expect to realize from a real estate investment over time. So over 5 years, we want to double our money. So that means we need to make at least a 20% IRR per year, because 20 times 5 equals 100. Thus we put in 100, we get 100 back. 1 plus 1 equals 2, okay? So for this example, we are buying an apartment complex that's going to produce a 10% cash on cash return per year and a 20% internal rate of return per year, okay? So to double your money, at least a 8 to 10% cash on cash and an 18 to 22% IRR is acceptable. For this, we're 10 and 20. 10% cash on cash, 20% IRR per year. So we find this apartment complex. It's a beautiful building in a very strong market. It's getting great cash flow now. There's great tenants in place, great management in place, and the market's very strong. So we're gonna buy this property for $5 million, okay? So the purchase price is $5 million. We're gonna first call up our bank and see how much leverage they can give us. The bank says, hey, we like the property, we like the asset, we like the area, we like the neighborhood. We'll give you 80% leverage on this property for a 5-year interest-only loan. So we're only paying the interest, no principal. It's gonna be important in the example as we go on. So we get a $4 million loan from the bank. So that means we need to come up with $1 million. So we then pool our money together to get this $1 million. Okay, we get all of our funds together, we go close, we buy the property, all right? So this property after the first year has made us $100,000 in cash flow. So boom, there's our 10% return. We invested $1 million, we made $100,000 per year in the first year, 10% year one, that's awesome. Okay, let's duplicate that. So now each year, for the next 5 years, we make $100,000 each year. Over those first 5 years, we've made $500,000 in cash flow from this asset. Now, Realistically, we'll be raising rents, we'll be making improvements, and we'll actually be increasing the rents each year to keep up with inflation and keep up with the market. But for this example, let's keep it very simple, very straightforward, okay? So we bought the property for $5 million. Over 5 years, we've made $100,000 per year. That's 100, 100, 100, 100. That's $500,000 in cash flow over the investment period, okay? Comes to year 5, we're like, hey, the market's appreciated. We've gotten some increase in value. We've seen that some other trades happen. Let's sell this property. You know, it's the end of our investment cycle. Let's go take our money out and buy something else. So we put the property on the market and we get a contract on it for $5.5 million, okay? But we're gonna double our money in this. How is that possible? We're only making $500,000, okay? Let's look at it. So we bought it for $5 million. Then we sell for $5.5 million, okay? So subtract our loan of $4 million because it was an interest-only loan. None of our money went to the principal, so thus our payment was very low and did not affect our principal balance. So subtract the $4 million loan, we're left over with $1.5 million, okay? We invested $1 million in this property to buy it. So subtract our initial investment, we have a $500,000 profit, okay? So let's look at that. So over the last 5 years, we've made $500,000 in cash flow. And then now we come to the closing table and we have a $500,000 profit. We invested $1 million and we just made another $1 million from cash flow and sales proceeds. Now we have $2 million, okay? We just doubled our money in the last 5 years. And guess what we're gonna do? Go find a bigger property to buy and do the same thing again, okay? It's rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. And to see all your money and actually double your money without paying taxes at the closing table is to 1031 your money. So essentially what we'll do is we will 1031 our piece of those sale proceeds. We'll recommend our investors do the same. So essentially we will not touch our sale proceeds. They'll go into a 1031 intermediary account and then we'll keep that there until we find another property to buy and keep the cycle going. Okay, so you're probably thinking, you know, that sounds cool, that sounds fantastic, but how can I get a piece of this? You know, I have 50,000, I have 100,000, 200,000, I don't have $1 million. So the way we bought this property is through our syndication. So our syndication is comprised of general partners and limited partners. The general partners have all the general roles and responsibilities with operating and overseeing the asset. The limited partners have limited roles and limited responsibilities with overseeing the asset. So essentially our limited partners are all of our past investors who have great jobs, make great income and love what they do now, but want to diversify into real estate, but they don't want to quit their job and become a real estate expert or deal with all the headaches of being a landlord. So what they do is this, they invest with us and we all invest together. We buy properties. All they do is write a check, sit back, collect their rent checks, get their sale proceeds, and then write another check and reinvest. So if you want to get involved, you want to learn more about this process, how it works, and actually see what a real deal looks like, feel free to book a call, book a time on my calendar on the link below, check out our website, fill out the investor questionnaire. Don't forget to like and subscribe and see the next video. Boom!